Question number one, and this comes from YouTube. I bought a whole ham for my dog. Is that okay? I have a cockapoo, but I've been reading that it's not healthy. I was going to break it down to give it to him every other day. Now I'm scared. Well, there's no need to be scared really, and thank you so much for the question. I bought a whole ham to give my dog. Should you give your dog a whole ham? Like this lady says, a bit of common sense really does go a long way. So if you are buying something big for your dog and your dog is small, try to break it up and try to give it to them over time, like give it to them every other day, as this lady suggests. Giving something like a whole ham or something too fattening, for example, to your dog as a big chunk can indeed be detrimental to your dog's health. As with everything, a bit of moderation and a bit of common sense goes a long way. So if you are buying your dog a whole ham, make sure your dog doesn't eat the full ham. And we do have a lot of people coming to us and say, oh, my dog will eat this and my dog will eat that, but won't eat their food. And that's because they have other options. If your dog has access to other options and your dog is one of the smarter breeds, even if your dog is not one of the smarter breeds, the dog will hold out for those traits. So if you are giving your dog a full ham or something that is not part of their regular diet, their regular food, make sure you spread it out and make sure your dog maybe works for it a little bit. If you have a high value treat, make the dog obey a few commands, and you can include that item into your dog's daily training or training schedule, or maybe the dog can do a few more tricks. So that's what I would do if I bought my dog a whole ham. I would partition it and I would give it to him every other day as a treat, as a high value treat. I wouldn't want him to become picky. So if I saw that sort of pickiness behavior going on, I would cut it out completely. But yeah, nothing wrong with that. Don't give it to the dog all at once, but there's nothing wrong with it. Second question, and this was from YouTube, from one of the shorts. And the question is, who still feeds kibble to their dogs? Not me. And I am assuming that this lady is a raw dog feeder. And she is asking who still feeds kibble to their dogs. We're talking about dry dog food. That's what we're talking about, dry dog food. Should you feed dry dog food to your dog, or should you feed raw dog food to your dog? And there are worlds within these two domains, within dry dog food and within raw dog food. There are levels of quality. There are incredibly wonderful kibbles. They are incredibly wonderful raw dog foods. There are some horrible raw dog foods, and there are some horrible dry dog foods. Who still feeds kibble to their dogs? Millions and millions and millions of people worldwide, actually. Dogs, unfortunately, for a lot of dogs and a lot of us, people have jobs. People live busy lives. People cannot procure, maybe they don't want to handle raw dog food, so they opt for kibble. And you can actually get really good kibbles, and you can get cold pressed, minimally processed kibbles. You can get kibbles with a lot of incredibly good ingredients, say your fresh chicken, your raw turkey. You can get ox liver in kibble. You can get freshly prepared venison in kibble. You can get some really good kibbles. I always say that there are two very distinctive camps when it comes to the pet food industry, and they apply to both kibble and raw dog food. We have the wheat, the barley, the corn, the soy, the meat and animal derivatives, the sugars, and they are prevalent everywhere. And then we have the freshly prepared free-range chicken, and we have the dried venison, and we have raw salmon, and we have raw turkey liver, and we have green beans. In Kibble, we have all those ingredients in raw dog food. And it is my job, is the job of people like me, to get you to read the ingredients and to come to this camp, irrespective whether you feed kibble or raw. There are a few considerations whenever you feed raw dog food, like the provenance, the climate. If you live in a very hot country, how easy is it to store and transport raw dog food? The smell even of raw dog food, people don't like that. Fresh is fresh, processed is processed, but within processed there are so many different worlds. So who feeds kibble to their dogs? Millions and millions of people. You shouldn't feel bad for feeding kibble to your dog, or because someone else is telling you not to feed kibble. People get very tribal, people get very polarizing in the pet food industry, and they try to preach and they try to pontificate. My job is to make you choose the best out of what you have available. So yeah, thank you so much for the question. Who still feeds kibble to their dogs? Millions and millions of people. We see hundreds and hundreds of dogs, and they eat very good kibbles, and the dogs are happy, the dogs are healthy, the dogs' coats are wonderful, the dogs' teeth are great, the dogs' overall health it couldn't be better on kibble. So yeah, who still feeds kibble to their dogs? A lot of people. And I love raw dog food. My dog is raw fed, so I can't really disagree with either camp, because I see really good results and really good stories in both camps. Sir, can you recommend food for cats? Of course I can. Cat food, cats are obligate carnivores, as I always say, so my first choice for you is 100% meat. A diet of 100% meat for your cat. Cat food is infuriating, and I always say this. If you read a lot of popular cat foods, they include dextrose, they include sugar, they include cereals. And I don't really understand why anybody would put sugar or cereals in cat food, or rice in cat food. And these are your veterinary prescription diets, and these are your widely available cat foods. And they contain your meat and animal derivatives, wheat gluten, corn, sugar, dextrose. They contain things that are not meat. You know why? Because meat costs money, and these people are more focused on making money than on providing your cat with something that's suitable for your cat. So if I were going to recommend a cat food, I would make sure I read the ingredients. I would make sure the animal proteins and the ingredients are all, or most of them, are meat based. If you are feeding a dry cat food, make sure any carbohydrates are sweet potato or green beans or that sort of thing, because kibble has to be bound together with carbohydrates, with starches, otherwise the extruder doesn't work. You cannot really make a pellet out of just meat conventionally, so that's why they all introduce certain starches. But rice, wheat, barley, sugar, meat and animal derivatives for cats, no thank you. No thank you. Read the ingredients. Your cat deserves meat. They need meat. It's like, giving your cat meat and animal derivatives and sugar and cereals. It's like feeding meat to a horse. Don't do it. Another question. We do kibble in the morning, a food which is 80-20, and then freeze-dried in the evening. Since we have a toy breed, we feed only 30 grams of freeze-dried. You will freeze less quantity than kibble. You will feed less quantity than kibble, she says. And there's nothing wrong with that. She has included two of the brands she uses, and this is something that can be beneficial if you feed raw or if you feed something freeze dried, which is very expensive, let's be honest. If you feed something freeze dried or if you feed raw dog food, you might be crunching the numbers and trying to make ends meet, and cost of living crisis and everything is expensive. How can we reduce the food bill for my pet? And you can do kibble in the morning, and then you can do freeze dried or raw dog food at night, and there's nothing wrong with that. Providing the kibble is good quality, and the kibble this lady recommends or this lady uses is an 80-20, where 80% is meat sources and 20% tends to be your low glycemic starches. There's nothing wrong with that. Freeze-dried dog food is wonderful, is great. It's just like raw, it's very well preserved. The only problem is that the cost is completely out of this world, is exorbitant. So yeah, that's one way of reducing the amount of money you give you spend on your dog on raw dog food or freeze dried dog food. Some raw food manufacturers on their websites, and you can check this for yourself. They recommend whenever you switch from kibble to raw to just switch. And if you are doing the half and half, the 15-50, they recommend raw in the morning, and it has to do with the dog's enzymes and the ability for your dog's stomach to break down those raw foods. Because yes, dogs can eat and digest raw dog food, but whenever just like us really, if you think about it, a McDonald's burger isn't digested the same as a feta cheese salad. So if you are feeding your dog something that's processed, even if it's minimally processed, your body is going to react to that food slightly different than it's going to react to something that's very, very healthy, freshly prepared, and just made on the spot. It is the same with dogs. Obviously, they have different acidity levels, they have different enzymes, they have different abilities to cope with foods. When should you feed your dog raw and when should you give your dog kibble? I have never seen this go wrong. No one has ever come to me and said, oh, I did kibble in the morning, raw at night, and it was a disaster. I've never heard that. So largely dogs will be fine. Having said that, a few raw dog food manufacturers do say that raw is better in the morning, and then at night you can feed kibble. Maybe because kibble is compressed, maybe because kibble takes a bit more time to digest than raw dog food. Raw dog food is fresh. There can be something to that. But that's absolutely fine. If you are trying to reduce your food bill, you can do 50-50. You can do kibble at night, and then you can do raw dog food or freeze dried in the morning. I always say as well, because she says that they have a toy breed. The wonders of toy breeds and small dogs is that you can really go very, very high quality, incredible ingredients. You can feed your dog rocket fuel and it won't break the bank because you are feeding a very small dog. If you have a bull mastiff, then the story is not going to correlate the same. It's not going to be the same. I have a friend with a bull mastiff, and that dog eats so much, and price, unfortunately, comes into consideration a lot more for him. But, you know, if you have a toy breed, if you have a small dog, you can really go up in terms of quality, and it won't break the bank. And this is a consideration that a lot of people don't really make when they get their dog. they don't recognize how much or how little it is going to cost in food. And then that's when they start cheapening out on the food, and problems start happening, your allergies and and that sort of thing. So thank you for the question. And the last one is that you suggest starving a dog. You don't deserve to have one. And yeah, thank you so much for the question. This was a comment made on a video that I did on how to get a fussy dog to eat. And if you have a dog that's been fussy, if you have a dog that's not eating, the quickest way to get the dog to eat is to fast the dog for 24 hours. I always say that make sure the dog is healthy, the dog doesn't have any health conditions, but providing the dog is healthy, providing the dog is fine, if you don't feed the dog for 12 hours, if you don't feed the dog for 24 hours, make sure the dog is well hydrated, you will have a much higher chance of your dog eating their food, which is what your dog should be doing. Otherwise, you are going to be changing from food to food to food to food, and the dog is going to make you crazy. The dog is going to be in charge of their diet and not you, and that's going to cause a lot of distress. That's going to cause a lot of sleepless nights and changing foods and asking people for tricks, and now we feed this and now we feed that, and the dog is going to be in charge and you're not going to be in charge. So sometimes you do have to be cruel to be kind. I obviously never advocate to starve a dog on purpose, starve a dog in the whole sense. So no, don't starve the dog, but do restrict the dog's food intake if the dog is being fussy. Otherwise, you are never going to win, and you want to win because you want an easy life, and we see that hundreds and hundreds of times every single week where people come to us with the same problem, we solve the problem, and off they go with their own little wonderful life. And those dogs are great. The dogs are healthy, and the dog now knows that the dog has to eat the food or the dog won't get anything else. So if you are providing alternatives to your dog, maybe the best course of action for you is to fast the dog. Not starve the dog, but fast the dog for a while, and then see if the dog will eat the food. And I guarantee you the dog will eat the food. And by the way, if you require consultation, if you want to speak to us directly, you can go on thepetquarter.co.uk/consultation. You can submit your questions down below on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you find us. You can submit questions and I will answer them. And thank you so much for all your support. I'll see you in the next one.